Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to the Amputate to Elevate Success podcast, where transformation takes center stage. I'm your host, John Register, a two-time Olympic trials qualifier, combat veteran, amputee, Paralympic silver medalist, top 50 global leadership speaker. And guess what? They put me in the Hall of Fame for speakers. I can't believe it. But Amputate to Elevate Life podcast takes a deep dive into the lives of senior C-suite leaders, inspirational influencers who've turned adversity into advantage and obstacles into their opportunities. In other words, what these leaders did was they had to amputate to elevate their life. We're going to talk about all those things. And Amputate to Amplify podcast uncovers the raw stories behind the corporate facade. We're talking about the challenges, the pitfalls, and most importantly, the victorious turnarounds that define true leadership. So be prepared to be inspired, to act, to transform your obstacles into opportunities. Let's amputate to elevate right here, right now. I have another amazing guest, but first, remember to follow the show by clicking on the notification bell, download it. Thanks in advance for all your support. We are brought to you by Inspired Communications International, where we work with business professionals and leaders who are ready to hurdle their adversity. Keyword is ready to hurdle their adversity, amputate fear, embrace a new normal mindset to win the medals that are in their life. And I am honored to get ready to, and you all need to get ready to be inspired by this guy. Oh my gosh, I was just on this podcast the other day. We could have talked all afternoon. Dr. Travis Hearne, the founder and CEO of Titanium Consulting Group, a Marine Corps. We won't hold that against him, that's for sure. Hoorah. I'm bilingual too. Hoorah and hua. All right. Combat veteran, former intelligence officer, cybersecurity expert. Dr. Hearne is an international best-selling author, a highly sought after speaker with a doctorate in organizational change and leadership from USC. He brings leadership lessons from the battlefield and beyond. He's led teams in Iraq, Afghanistan, and at the Defense Intelligence Agency, learning firsthand that leadership can save lives. Mm-hmm. Today, he shares his powerful Amputate to Elevate Action model. That's my model. He's going to talk about it inside of that framework, helping companies overcome adversities. We're going to thrive. We're going to be rapidly changing because our world is always changing. Travis Hearne, welcome to the show.
John, man, thank you so much for that intro and for allowing me to come on and talk about some of the things that are really important to me and really important to leading people and making sure people are taken care of. So, man, this is going to be a fantastic conversation. So, yeah, thank you for having me, and thank you for the wonderful intro, man. That was great.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for sending it over.
Yeah.
I just love learning about people and what makes you tick. You know, you have a beautiful family, you got your kids, and we're going to talk about all that. But first, we talk about what we have to release, what we have to let go of. And it's always the first question I have is, what do you have to amputate in your life? And then what did you have to elevate in your life to find the success that you are at right now?
Man, I had to amputate so many things. So going back to what I joined, I was in the Marine Corps for a long time. Like you said, Iraq and Afghanistan. When I came home from Iraq and Afghanistan, and I joined, I joined the corporate world, and I started living amongst the normal people, and just being a civilian. I realized I had a lot of trauma that I had to amputate, that I had to let go of when I'm coming out of the Marine Corps, coming out of deployments, and it was holding me back from being able to actually fully lead and fully support my team at Titanium Consulting Group, fully support when I was at DIA, even fully support my Marines. When I came back from Afghanistan in 2010, I still had 4 more years left as an active duty Marine. So understanding that, man, there's some things that I need to work through, that I need to let go of. I really, really need to let go of. And one of those, it was the trauma, but mixed within that trauma was also alcohol. So one of the things, a big thing in my life was that I had to let go a couple of years ago was drinking. I'm a kind of guy, John, I think you know me, that if I'm going to do something, I better be good at it. And I was not good at drinking. That was not something that I was good at, but I was really trying hard to be good at it. And it was not serving me. It was clogging my judgment. This is all a personal decision to me. This is what it did to me. And it just wasn't serving me. It wasn't serving my people. I wasn't serving my people well when I had that part of my life. So being able to amputate that part has really helped to, I don't think we ever amputate the trauma that we experience in life, but we are able to dive into it and really heal from it. And you and I talked about healing yesterday, but we can start to heal and we can continue to heal and we can make the decision every single day that we're going to be better than we were yesterday. And we're not going to let trauma drive that train, or we're not going to let hurt drive that train. But what I had to elevate in those situations was, one, my relationship with my family. We talked about my family. I got an amazing wife, three amazing kids. They're three boys, 7, 9, and 11. We are busy. So getting rid of those things helped elevate me as a father, as a husband. And what it also did was it elevated me as a leader. I lead a international consulting group where we go and we talk to leaders about being good leaders. We rebuild organizations sometimes from the ground up to help them to scale, to thrive, to move into different spaces that they want to move into. And being able to go into that and help my people transform lives and organizations into something that they want to be, and something that is really holistically healthy, which I think we'll talk about in a little bit. I have a holistically healthy framework. We talk about mental health, emotional health, physical health, business health, and then spiritual health. Those are kind of the 5 pillars that I that we work with organizations on, that I've used throughout my life. So being able to elevate that part of my life through the amputating of some of those other things and the healing of some of the other things has been game changing. It's been I've been able to network better, have a better, I mean, it's done really, really great things in my life to be able to elevate my family and elevate the people that work for me and work with me.
The elevation then it takes with the clarity of focus, the clarity of mind, that you're always kind of clearly thinking about what the next step might be. Really, I believe when you're talking about this, help to elevate you and your thought about how you're serving your family, how you're serving your team members, how you're elevating not just your life, but their lives as well as you begin to pour into them. You talked about this holistic way, the 5 pillars. I would love for you to go into that and dive into that just to see how this plays out and what you're elevating in the lives of others with these 5 pillars.
Yeah, absolutely, John. Again, and these pillars are we're all at different levels in these in these pillars. So again, it's how are you doing? And when we talk about when we talk to leaders and we begin coaching or we begin consulting work, the first conversation that we have is, okay, we have these 5 pillars that we lean on. We have mental health, emotional health, physical health, spiritual health, and business health. So how do you rate yourself in all of those different areas? It's like it's a bar graph. So are you really high in your emotional health, and your mental health is a little lower? Your physical health is way down here. Business health is up here, but physical health is way down here. Spiritual health, where do you lie in that? So and this is how we elevate leaders. It's almost like when you look at the bar graph of it, it is literally an elevation of these different levels of emotional health, mental health, physical health, all these different things to create the holistically healthy person, not just a holistically healthy leader, but the holistically healthy person. So when we talk about mental health, it's how well are you taking care of yourself? What are your stressors look like? How do you handle your stressors? How do you do that well? Emotional health, how do you handle other people's emotions? How do you handle your emotions in the workplace? Are you making emotional decisions? We all bring in some level of emotion to decision making in organizations and leading and all that stuff. But how much you are allowing those things to fester? So, what does your emotional health look like? Physical health. This is a big thing for me, and I know for you too, John. Being an athlete, like I believe, and it's just cognitively, scientifically proven that, like, if we are physically active, our brains work better. We are more engaged. We are more alive. We're more awake if we are able to be physically active. And that doesn't mean you have to go run a half marathon every day. That means that if you're like me, you're working from home.
I won't be running a half marathon every
Yeah, John and I are going to run a half marathon next week. I'm just kidding. No, but it's about getting up. It's about scaling it to what you need. And it's, this remote work kind of influx since we all came back to the workplace, or everything started opening back up again. Businesses have found that, we can close down big buildings and we can have people work from home. But what that's done is it's made people really sedentary. It's made people sit down all day long, and all of a sudden you look up, it's 5 o'clock, and you got to go eat dinner, and you've taken 1,000 steps for the whole day, and you haven't done anything. So and I harp on this one a lot, but the physical health component of it is very, very huge. So get up. How often are you getting up from your desk? How often are you working out? How often are you stretching, breathing? It all goes into that. And then we talk about the business health. So business health is exactly that. So where do you want to go? What are your goals for your business, your organization? What are your goals professionally? Like for you, do you want to be the VP of X company someday? Do you want to be a CEO? Do you want to, do you have an entrepreneur in your blood? What does that look like for you? And then spiritual health. This is kind of one that I really love to talk about, and a lot of people don't. But for me, it's my belief in Christ. So it's how's my spiritual health? How's my walk with God going? And that is going to be a measure of success for me, because if I'm aligned in that way, then I can be aligned and start focusing on other things based on the spiritual health as my foundation for the rest.
Yep.
So when we look at those and we measure, we're not measuring, well, yeah, we are. We're measuring leaders based on how they're doing in all those different things. We know where to work. We know where to start, whether it's whatever pillar that they need to work on. They rank them, and then we go to town and we go to work, start working on those. And what that does is it literally elevates their capacity in all of those different pillars.
Thanks for explaining that. That's really great. Those five pillars. I wrote down mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, and business health. Did I get those right?
Yep.
Fantastic.
Yep.
And it reminded me of some things, right? Because we all have models, and models are kind of they bump against other models. We go through this book. Most people probably in the business world have read it sometime in their life. Some people read it every month. Some people read it every year. And it's Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
Yep.
It's so yeah, you probably got it up there. I got it around here. I do a lot of things inside of it on the business side. One of our masterminders that we call, it's kind of the original masterminding groups. We work on this book, kind of going through it, studying the principles, and really around the accountability one to the other. So when you go through these, and then the last point, then we also try to do this in a style that is of family, so that we're actually masterminding in 12 different areas of our life. So we go, so some of the ones you brought up, the business side is the thing real rich. Then we have the spiritual side, the emotional side, the physical side, mental side, relationship side. All these things we begin to mastermind in each one of those areas, and we can see this kind of framework of a life cycle that begins to evolve, and one area kind of might go up and the other one is kind of going down, and we have to kind of keep those all in flux and in balance. When you have done this work with companies, what have you seen as some of the success stories of people that when they get it right, what are they doing, and what does it take for those that aren't getting it right? How do you help them to see, because you really can't make them do the work. You can advise, you can share examples, but you can't really make a person or a group or a company commit to it. How are you getting them to actually elevate their own life and things that they might not see, that might be their blind spots?
Yeah, that's a great question, because you're right. Yeah, I mean, coaching organizations and consulting with organizations is all about asking questions and helping them to come up with the answers that are already inside of them to be able to go forth and do the work. That's what this is all about. So that is the kind of the coach to lead approach when we first start tackling this holistically healthy leadership, a holistically healthy process, is starting to ask questions, identify what their pain points are, identifying where they want to go as an organization. What they brought me in for a reason, they brought my company in for a reason. What is the why behind that reason? Not just because, hey, we need to figure out how to scale and grow, but like what's the why behind? So once we can identify and dig into the why are we here in the first place, that's when we start organizing those holistically healthy things. Like, okay, what does this really mean? And so it's, for me, the companies that I've seen and the leaders that I've seen be highly successful in this are those that really dig into these and they go beyond the surface. They're vulnerable. They do the work. They are engaged. They're working on each of these pillars, and you could see it in their and they come back. And I mean, the testimonies we hear is like, you see, like, I'm better with my wife at home. I'm happier with my kids at home. Our business is scaling by 30% year over year. All these things that these success stories, that if people get underneath just the surface of what they want to accomplish, and they understand the why behind what they want to accomplish. And it's Simon Sinek says this very, very well, very, very often, and he's awesome. Like, the what is your why is so true. It's such a simple concept, but we've seen that when people dig into that and they understand it and they buy into this, like, hey, This is not all fluff. Like, yeah, leadership is all about the business and the financial and the bottom line. But if you're not mentally healthy, emotionally healthy, and it's a scale. Nobody's ever going to be 100% emotionally and mentally healthy. But if you're working on those aspects of your life, it's going to lead to you becoming happier, more success. It just leads to better things. And I've seen so many companies, big companies, come to me with big teams, be like, "You're absolutely right." The conference we ran last year, when you came and spoke, we had big companies there, and we're running through. We're with one of them. We're going to run them through this whole program for 2 days, come this winter, because they found so much value in it. And it's a huge company, so they want to dig in and they want to learn more. What we've seen on the other side is that, like, just like you were talking about, those people and those organizations that they're kind of trying to check a box. And what we can do is ask as many questions as possible, give them as many tools as we can. And honestly, as a company, Titanium Consulting Group, live out what we're teaching and what we're preaching. That's what shows them that, like, hey, if these concepts work, I use them on other companies. If you put them to use, they will work. If you don't, we can still work, we can still move forward. But if you really want the outcome that you desire for yourself and your people and your business, let's dig in. And it's really about building the relationship with the people.
I thank you. I there's a strategic reason I was asking that question. It's really, I don't have a business like yours as far as that on scale like that. I would love to kind of go in that direction. I do know that I do not want to be a CEO. That is 100%. However, after reading the book Rocket Fuel, I understand where my gifting is. And I know I'm a visionary. And I just need a person that can take the vision and put it down on paper and then hold me accountable to not go off in 5,000 different directions every
That's
2 minutes.
That's the CEO, John. That's what a CEO does.
So I just don't like the people part.
Yeah.
Learned that, being a CEO, I learned that. And so kind of where I want to go with this is, a lot of times when I am brought in as a speaker to an organization, I'm asking that question. Why am I in the room? What is going on that you need me? Usually the surface answer is, oh, we just want you to inspire our team. So then I'll shift the language, like you said, asking the questions, and I will say, so what does that look like? What are your people doing after I come in and quote unquote inspire the team? What are the action steps that you see them taking because of this presentation? And that really starts down the road for people not checking that box and just saying, we just need a speaker in here to help motivate, or, do a presentation for our sales team because we're at the end of the quarter, or we need to, get them to move more numbers. And so we can have a deeper conversation around what that presentation looks like. So the design looks different. Because I have turned down opportunities where the leader could not articulate to me what they were after. Because now you're putting that on me to define that for your organization, which I have no very limited information about your organization. I'm usually extracting that. I'm better at it now for extracting information on the fly, but I'm very hesitant to go in an organization where you're trying, because I don't know what I'm swinging at.
Yeah.
Right. So when you think about that, there had to be something about the help aspect of helping organizations find out their why, helping organizations to do their gifting to the world. What was that for you that then brought you into this business in this line of work?
Yeah, so I want to touch on the keynote stuff as well, because like keynotes are like my favorite thing in the world. I love keynotes just like you do, John. But I learned a long time ago that we need to, when we're doing keynotes, that's inspiration and motivation. Man, they're inspired by something. They're going to come to this keynote. They're going to be motivated by the speaker. So those are the two things that they get from your everyday keynotes. What we have found that, like, you can't just leave them motivated, because motivation is like a big firework and it just bursts and it kind of like it fizzles and it goes down. So if we can turn that motivation into discipline, that just sets the bar a little bit higher. And people talk about this a lot, but if you can get from inspiration and motivation then to discipline, that sets people up for a different level where if they're once again inspired and motivated, it starts from a different level where they're already working from a place of discipline in an area that they wanted to grow in. So that is when we talk about our keynotes, I do the exact same thing. Before I jump on any stage, I'm talking to the directors, the EVPs, the CEOs about what do you want. What I don't want to. I can go up there and talk about Marine Corps stories, and I can talk about leadership. I can talk about really fun things and just motivate your people to think that I'm really cool and this, that, or the other. But that doesn't solve any of your problems.
No. Right.
No, that just gives them that'll help maybe somebody go for a run that afternoon. But it's not going to solve any of your corporate problems. So when we talk about our keynotes, we need to take those to the next level of like digging into organizational issues. I want to talk about a tailored problem that
Absolutely.
I can talk about from the stage and that your people can ask me questions about afterwards. And then you have something to lean in on afterwards that goes beyond the keynote, where if you want to engage me again, I'm open to that's why the consulting and the coaching thing is such a important part of that process. Because it goes way beyond the keynotes, beyond the stage. It's digging into the nitty gritty of the problems. Like people don't, if people didn't have problems or issues or things they needed to solve through motivation, they wouldn't have keynotes. There's something underlying that is a problem that they want their people to hear. And if we can dig into that and uncover that, it just makes everybody's life easier. The organization, the people, it just makes everybody's life that much easier. And then like in the world that we live in now, that's what we're all about, is I just want to help people, just make people's lives easier and to help them to do what they want to do and solve problems.
And before you jump into how you got into doing that, right? I want to say that is brilliant. It's one of the things that it really helped elevate me. So I'm going to stay in that framework of, talking about the motivation to disciplined action. I call it disciplined action. So I want to give how I think about this for those that are out there that are, looking for a speaker like a Travis Hearne to come in there, Dr. Travis Hearne to come in. These are the questions you should be asking your team before you even pick up that telephone, to know what your issues are. Don't just put a speaker up there who is, you heard their name and then now you want to think they're going to motivate. Because inspiration, Travis was talking earlier about his focus, his faith, Christianity, Christ, and that is it's a lifestyle. It's not like a thing we do on Sunday. For me, it's at the end of my life. What I want my Savior to say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." So it brings everything together that I want to be of service to others, not to distract. Anybody that's trying to distract or do negatively what Christ didn't do is bastardizing the gospel, in my opinion. Yep. So we have to be in that aspect of service. And so inspiration, it comes from the Latin word inspiro, which means to breathe into. So as my Creator's breathing into me, I have to breathe into others. And when others are breathed into, now they are activated. And that activation is a motivation. Motivation is the action. And so then Travis put it into the framework of disciplined action, right? So we have to be disciplined with that, and that creates a transformational result for the person watching and for ourselves who are going to learn from those experiences. And then we can live that life and we can help that. What Travis does even better is beyond the stage. So he can help your organization with that. So I just want to give that plug for Travis and the work that he does. It's really great work. And so I just want to honor and celebrate you in that moment. So
thank you,
again, going back to that, how did you get into it?
Yeah. So after a long time in the military, I saw the scale of what leadership could do, and how deep it could impact individuals. I saw amazing leadership I saw it in Iraq and Afghanistan. I saw it save lives. Individuals' lives were physically saved because of how they were led. I also saw the other end of the spectrum where there could be potential loss of life if leadership was not conducted in a certain way. So when you look at that big scale of leadership, and we can boil it down into everybody falls somewhere in those lines. If you're leading, if you're being led, there's something in between there. And I just got this fire in me when I left the Marine Corps. They're like, I'm going to create leaders that save lives. And I talk about that in the military context, but go Google the suicide rates in the actual business world since 2020. and you will see that sharp up and to the right, the only up and to the right scale we don't want to see. That's is that. So I'm not just talking about on the battlefield that to save lives. Leadership can save lives in the workplace as well, and it's about how you lead your people. It's about how you lead your organizations, and so when I've dug into that, I was like, you know what, I can't get enough of this, and I started my doctoral program, which is an organizational change in leadership. So digging into the theory and like the why, and like digging into a whole bunch of whys behind like good leadership and how you can change organizations in a positive way. Reading every book I could get my hands on, and just trying to dig into the literature. And what I found was that, man, okay, this is awesome. So, and that's what kind of birthed my first book, was Hybrid, a guide for successfully leading on-site and remote teams. Was that all this leadership theory and stuff was like really good for in-person teams, but when we translated it to hybrid and remote work, there was nothing out there. So that's what my first book does, is it translates those theories and shows and gives tangible ways to lead your remote teams, like leading through a computer screen, just like we're talking about and we're doing right now. This what would have been an in-person reaction 99% of the time before like 2019 has now, amazingly, and it's a great thing, we are able to do this online. So it's how do you get the most out of those interactions? And then I started my company in 2018, and it was very slow. It was just, okay, what are we going to do? Because I was still working. I was still had my corporate leadership job, and I was leading and working and doing and building this thing. And I found that my passion for this is just it's for helping leaders understand, and when they get that aha moment of like, man, okay, I can change the way that I lead my people, and that will scale my business. It really does have a tangible, tactical like impact on the way that businesses succeed. And when you look at the big organizations, it's there. Everything is out there. That if you look at big organizations and why they succeed, it's because they lean into their people, and they empower, and they motivate and create discipline, as you call disciplined action, within their people. So, and then I found that I had a bunch of people around me that wanted the same thing. That a lot of them were military folks, a lot of them were business leaders that really were like, man, okay, we believe in the concepts. Like, let's go start and seeing if people will talk about these with us. Yeah. So we did, and it worked, and it's been so fulfilling to me. It's like we keep talking about the whys, but I found my why. Like my why is to help leaders live better lives, and individual contributors live better lives, and human being and husbands and moms and kids, like just to lead better lives and more. And I think the more positivity we can spread into the workplace, the more that spills into home, into churches, into everywhere else. So yeah. Now I got a bunch of missionary friends, and like they're going overseas and they're doing anything. I'm like, my mission field's kind of like the secular space is the business world. Mm-hmm. So that's like, if we can go in and we can just start spreading positivity and start helping people to lead well and lead people, there's no better job in the world.
Yeah, we're going to talk definitely more about that. We're so aligned that it's not even funny. And even to what I'm building right now for giving leaders. I was talking to a friend of mine, a recent friend. She's becoming a really good friend. And I was talking about lonely at the top, right? And I was saying it as a cliche. So just being vulnerable, I was saying it as a cliche. And she challenged me, and she said, why would we ever build something that makes us isolated? We talk about the isolation that happens in the prison system, and how the mental strain is for a person that's in total isolation for months at a time, no contact. And we're building empires where we are the only one that moves the levers, and there's no one else that we can talk to. And that hit me like a freight train. Because she was absolutely right. Why would I ever build something that puts me on an island, on my own little island? Who's around me? So we're really focused on, with the leadership, to create people and teams that, as we go on. Yes, we're individuals as we attack that mountain, kick the door down, whatever objective we're after. But I have to rely on that team member, and someone can call an audible who's on that team that sees something that I might not see, that's behind the door, through some other glasses that oversights watching that I didn't that's flickered on my screen, right? So there's all this stuff that we need to do as leaders to make sure that we are also part of that unit and not seeing ourselves in isolation from it. Your thoughts?
Man, like again, we're going to talk in length about this over a long lunch and probably leading into dinner. But it's so true. Like, why would we ever build something where we end up by ourselves? That's the worst thing in the way. It seemed, but when you're an entrepreneur, young entrepreneur, like the drive, some people's drives to be that CEO, to be that leader is so intense that they forget about that. That they don't take that into the calculation. So when we work with young CEOs, it's like, okay, how are you building up? So we call it, I have a spiritual board of directors and an actual board of directors. My spiritual board of directors are friends that keep me aligned as far as my faith and everything else concerned. My board of directors is a board of directors, but they're all people that I love, that I trust, that I know well, and they're around me, and they're holding me accountable and pumping me up. And it's like it's a great group of individuals, and it was very, very on. I built it very on purpose. I did that very intentionally because often I have a buddy, Dr. Mark Mayfield. He lives out in Texas. If you ever listen to this, what's up, Mark? But he's written a couple books on loneliness and isolation and how terrible it is for leaders, for anyone. But when you are leading a big organization and you have the stress of leadership, of leading as a CEO, as a VP, as whatever position you are in, leading people, when you are in that position, and that goes into why I wrote my next book, is like when you're in that position, it's going to be hard. There are going to be things that are going to come at you that you are not going to be able to handle by yourself. You may think you may be able to, but you're not going to be able to. And bringing the right people around you, and they don't have to be people that work for you or work with you, at least bringing the right people in and building up that network, that leads into that emotional health and that mental health and even that physical health aspect of it. Man, I'm struggling today. I need to go for a run. Do you want to come with me? I need to just go for a walk. Come walk with me so I can just brainstorm something with you. Isolation is something that leaders do, that is they believe that there's nobody else that can understand their specific problem, and they isolate because they're afraid, and they isolate because they don't want to show weakness or vulnerability in those spaces.
Right.
So if we are leaders and I am one, like I'll wear like to a certain extent, like, man, I'm vulnerable and like with my team, because I need them to be able to be vulnerable with me. It's a two-way street.
Yeah. There is a reciprocation that happens in vulnerability. So the more I become vulnerable, the more other people want to release that vulnerability back.
Yeah.
And that, I believe, really helps with trust. So when I can really trust you with some of the issues I'm going with, and I get it, you have to be a little cautious with it, who you're releasing to. That's why you need a great network around you of those who you trust in the first place, or you want to build that relationship with, and you kind of slowly put it out there. Because I did as an executive, did it as a CEO, and there's some people on the team that they were seeing that as a weakness, and I was trying to model for them what I needed them to do in order to grow the organization.
Yep.
And so they just they self-selected out because I was going a different way. So that was but that was kind of my litmus test. How can you see yourself? Is it your kingdom? Is it your fiefdom? Or are you trying to build for this organization, this team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have this
question,
thing in transfer. Yeah, we have and just to hit on that again. There's a thing called idealized influence, and you and I know this as doing the right thing, even when nobody is watching. Because as leaders, everyone's watching. Everyone's watching all the time. And if we are isolating, our people are going to isolate. If we are, very tangibly, if we're not taking PTO, our people aren't going to take PTO. It's just we set the example by our actions and what we do and how we do it. So if we are in that isolated space, then it's going to be like, okay, well, I guess that's how you succeed in life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's 100%. I do it with audiences, and I watch it on television when somebody does a maneuver or an action, and then somebody repeats the other action. They mirror the action with it. So we do it like that. But my final question for you today, Dr. Hearne, is a lot of times people will say, after they've had a lot of experience is, what would you tell your younger self? At whatever age, 18 years, 21 years, 5 years old, whatever. And I've often thought that was a fictitious question, because there's nothing you can do about the past. And plus you haven't had the experience at the age you are now to actually have it back then in order to make those decisions and to change anything. The only thing you could have done is that at that age was go off the experience that you had, previous to it. You could forecast to that level. So that's what I want to ask you. If you take what you know now and you forecast 20 years down the road of who you want to be, how your company wants to be, how you want to be with your family, your wife, and you see what that looks like for you in your 20-year future, what do you have to do now in order to accomplish that 20 years from now?
That's an amazingly great question. And that philosophy is so cool, because I can't go back and tell my younger self to do anything, that I'll be reliving. It just doesn't work that way. So when I think of it's multifaceted. So when I think of, the first thing is my family. In 20 years, my family, I want them to look back and be like, man, Dad showed up. Like, he showed up to the things, both. And he didn't just show up. He showed up mentally. He was there. He was active. He was engaged. He showed up. I want to be a dad and a husband that shows up. And then for my company, I want to, I'm going to go back to childhood for this one. Remember when you were a kid and you would grab like a handful of little pebbles, and you're at a lake and you would just like throw the handful of pebbles and they would all go brrr, and they would just like create these ripples like all over the lake. Yeah. I don't want to just have one rock that is making impact. I want to be able to create leaders, that handful of stones, that when they get charged out into the world, they're creating those micro ripple effects of good, positive leaders. And I want to be able to sit back and watch and coach and be able to be there for my people as they go out and just do amazing things and change lives through that.
I love that. Yeah.
In order to do that, I have to show that. We talked about idealized influence. I need to go and be a force for change in our leadership world, in our organizations, in our business world. And I need to go, every time I speak, I need to talk about the things that are going to be spoken about, hopefully 10 years from now, about, hey, this is how my organization changed. So it's being very intentional about what I do now in these next 20 years to be able to watch that lake and watch all those pebbles just start rippling out and creating tangible change in our world, in our lives, in our businesses, everywhere.
Now watch this. I'm about to close my eyes. I love it. The showing that I'm showing up. I'm showing up for my wife. I'm showing up for my kid. Oh my gosh, that's hardcore. That's brilliant. Because that's intentional, right? So we got 20 years out of intention of what we're going to do for our families. And then the pebbles, throwing them into the lake and watching the ripples hit on ripples. And then where I take those ripples is ripples go out from us, but echoes come back.
Ooh, that's good. Wow.
Echoes come back.
Yeah.
So what is coming back to us? And we can do a whole nother show on echoes. I call them echo moments. And I said, can I harness the echo moments of the ripples that I'm making?
Yeah. That's so good.
Right.
Man. That's
a whole nother show. We're going to do
that's a whole other show. That's part 2.
That's part 2. So yeah. Thank you so much for being on. How do people find you and get in contact with you, Travis?
Yeah. So if you look up on Instagram, it's at Travis.Hearne. Instagram's there. LinkedIn, just search my name. I should be the only Dr. Travis Hearne or Travis Hearne on LinkedIn. If not, just look for my face. That's what I look like. drthearne.com. That is my website. You can go there and you can pull up my profiles. You can pull up our team's profiles. You can reach out to us. And my email is thearne, THEARNE, at mytitaniumlc.com. So reach out to me. Again, open for conversations. Love talking about this stuff. So happy to chat whenever you need to.
And that will be all in the show notes as well. And that's a wrap on today's show. The amazing Dr. Travis Hearne was on, gracing us with insights of inspiration and taking us on a transformational journey by helping us amputate fear, living life. Again, I'm your host, John Register, a professional speaker, guiding us through the transformative journeys of some of the most inspiring leaders in the business events world. Remember, it's not just about facing challenges, it's about converting them into your greatest successes. Get your freemium access to Elevate Your Life video, Think Letter, which is your weekly dose of strategies for executives. And every episode is full of what leaders are thinking about right now. This podcast was live on YouTube. I think we're going to do it on johnregister.com too. I'm not sure. We'll figure that thing out as well. So go over there, check it out. Find all my social media channels that will link you to these daily doses of inspiration. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Until next time, go forth, inspire your world. Catch you next time. Bye for now.